Hey, Anthony Tilley here, and welcome to the Solopreneur Show.
Welcome to the Solopreneur Show with your host, Anthony Tilley. To get your hands on more great business training and advice, plus the chance to join our free Facebook group where you will see extended guest interviews, the opportunity of free one-to-one coaching, and behind-the-scenes access to Anthony, go to www.thesolopreneurshow.com and join us today. And here's your host, the man himself, Mr. Anthony Tilley.
Hey, Anthony Tilley here, and welcome to the Solopreneur Show. It really is great to have you here with me today, and we have got an absolute doozy of a show for you today, an absolutely cracking interview with somebody who's a good friend of mine, known him for a number of years, Mr. Dean Holland. Just amazing. In fact, listen, here's what I'm going to do. I normally sort of talk for 2 or 3 minutes with regards to what's coming up in the show, etc. Obviously, we've got Ask Anthony later on. But what I'm going to do is, well, first and foremost, let's just say if you're listening to this in the podcast, you need to obviously get into the group to hear this whole interview. So if you go to the solopreneurshow.com/Dean Holland, you will be able to join the group. Either that, or you can watch the edited version of the interview you're about to listen to. But that's all I'm going to say, because this interview, Dean and I ended up chatting for about 75 minutes. On the interview, we chatted for about an hour and a quarter outside of the interview, because obviously, that's what friends do. But Dean shared a huge amount of value, and I'm just really, really so excited and so pleased that Dean agreed to come on the show, and that he has he has just given so much value, which, to be honest with you, is the reason why I got him on here, because I knew there was no doubt whatsoever that we were going to get some real nuggets from Dean today. So guys, enjoy the interview, and that's all I got to say. Okay, so I'm joined today by somebody who's a very good friend of mine. We've known each other now for about 5 years. It's a UK marketer and the proprietor, the creator, the CEO. I'm not sure exactly which title you prefer, Dean, of Internet Profits Limited. It's my good friend Dean Holland. Hiya, mate.
Hey, how you doing? Just Superman will do. Superman.
Okay, Superman of iPro.
Yeah.
I've always admired your modesty.
Oh, dear.
Okay, so Dean, obviously, as said, you've got iPro, Internet Profits Limited, etc. Very successful company, UK-based company here, which I know a huge amount about. It's nice actually when I've done these interviews. I've always had to sort of go and do a lot of research on the people I've interviewed, whereas actually you and I are good friends. I know all about it, etc. Know how sort of great it is. But what I do like to do with the interviews is always start really with everybody's their journey, to use an X Factor term, but because I know yours, and I know that the position you got yourself into and the position you got yourself out of. And I'd really love if you can just sort of share your story with the listeners for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, thank you for the kind words. So, it seems rather strange to me, to be honest, because anytime anybody asks me this, I still kind of feel like we're still just getting started. But wow, it's been 12 years now since I first began, which is rather insane to say that. I got started initially way back in 2004. At that stage, I left school at 16 years old, didn't go on to college or university. I was just one of those kids, I guess, that had no idea what they wanted to do with their life. So I just, for several years jumped from, poor job to poor job, really, to put it politely. And around about 2004 it was that I sort of did that thing that I guess all of us have done at some stage, is head on over to Google and search for ways to make more money. And it was what is my everyday life now is a very strange, bizarre world that I uncovered, that is internet marketing and affiliate marketing and all this stuff that is just common ground for us now. And I admittedly was one of those typical cases, I guess you would say, that fell into the trap of believing this whole push button income rubbish and all of that kind of nonsense. And that led me to take a very bad path into this business, to be honest. It, for 4 years. So from 2004 to 2008, I got myself into a horrific amount of debt. I believe now, looking back, it was around about probably a little over $60,000 in debt. Not good for a 24-year-old guy. Certainly not what I guess my family would have wanted for me, which is why I didn't tell them. Yeah, I didn't make any money at all either. A lot of people, they make some money as they're learning, but for me, it was absolutely nothing. And, the turning point, I guess, the lesson to be learned from that was actually I joined a coaching program and I got a mentor towards the end of 2008. This was somebody that was, doing what I wanted to do. And I basically invested to get the help from them and finally got on the right track, finally began to learn the fundamentals of doing business online.
Yeah, it's interesting you say about that, that you sort of got the mentor in 2008. Now I don't know if you remember this, you probably don't. I'm not sure we've ever sort of discussed this. Do you remember you put a post on the Warrior Forum just about to quit your job?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
So, and I think this is a really good lesson for the guys out there. We always assume that we only get followed as marketers once we've made it. Once we're making money, etc.
Yeah.
You hadn't made it. You were still in a job. You were just about to quit it, and you put that post on the Warrior Forum. And I actually saw that, and I commented on it.
Oh wow!
And that's how I sort of first learned about you. Started following you. So I was following you in a non-stalky, kind of way. That shadow that you see every now and again in the corner of your eye on the stairs. So I'd already sort of started following you even before.
Wow.
You were full time, so I was aware of your journey. So that's an interesting thing. Now, So you joined the coaching program, and what did you start doing then that you weren't doing before?
So I think in those first 4 years, looking back, one of the biggest takeaways that I could probably share from that is, what I was doing was just buying products, giving it a small try. I'd read the product or watch the videos and I'd try. And if I didn't see some miraculous result happen, then I'd move on and I'd buy something else and I'd try again. And that cycle just repeated over years. Now, what I actually learned when things started to turn around towards the end of 2008 was really just a few fundamentals. I actually started a blog. So I sort of had this place on the internet, if you like, that was me, where I got to share my story. As you've just said, one of the things that I was actually doing side by side with the blog was I was active in a couple of internet marketing forums, and that actually people started going from the forum to my blog. So in a roundabout way, I was posting on a blog, posting in a forum as well, and people was coming to my blog, which started getting me some traffic. And because I was just sharing my story, if you like, whereas for those first 4 years, I was so ashamed of how badly I'd messed things up that I just kept it to myself. I didn't tell anybody how badly I'd messed it up, Whereas on my blog, I finally started being honest. I started saying, this is how badly I've messed up. This is the debt I've got into. These are the things that I've tried and failed at. Here's my experiences. And what actually happened is, it turned out that I wasn't alone in that, which we know to be true now. But back then I did feel like it was just me. I was the only one that couldn't make it. And it turned about and transpired that a lot of people coming from the forum started relating to the things I was sharing. They were going through the same things. And that created this kind of traffic flow coming to my blog. Every week people would come back. What's Dean sharing this week? What's he messed up this week? It was kind of like I was creating my own version of the Kardashians, possibly. With less makeup, hopefully. And yeah, from there, because I was getting the traffic, one of the other fundamentals that I'd learned, which looking back, I wish I'd have done this from day one, was I started to build an email list. And by building that list, I was then going forwards, I was then able to actually recommend products to my subscribers things that were helping me. Like I learned I needed an autoresponder to build my list. I would tell my list about that. I needed, to set up my blog, I needed hosting. So I would tell my list about that. Here's the hosting provider I'm using with my affiliate link. And they would, as I started to do that, this cycle of events, I had a blog, people was coming from the forum to my blog. From my blog, they joined my list. From my list, I got to communicate with them and recommend products. And that's how I started actually earning commissions, and it was bizarrely simple looking back at it. Like, I'm not saying it was definitely difficult getting there, the 4 years of hell. But really those fundamentals, it didn't seem so difficult once I'd done it. I guess it's that thing, you don't know what you don't know, right? If somebody would have told me from day one, hey, do this, I'd have got results much sooner, but I just didn't know. And I just repeated that cycle for quite a long time until it was around about, like you've just said, that post in the Warrior Forum. My first blog post was October 20th, 2008. And I handed my letter of resignation in at my job on June the 1st or 2nd of 2009. So it was like an 8-month window from learning the fundamentals and getting help to actually making a significant change to my life. That's
pretty quick, actually. I mean, if you take out the 4 years of, whatever you want to, expletive you want to put there, take out those, that's actually quite a quick turnaround, and to be in that position. So that was all from affiliate marketing, effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And just to be clear, so nobody's thinking differently to this, when I did quit my job, I took a real risk, because I wasn't when I say I was able to quit my job 8 months later, it wasn't because I was making loads of money.
Right.
I was making a bit, and I kind of felt like I had nothing left to lose, because I'd hit rock bottom by 2008. I was, living back at my parents' house, working out of my mum's spare bedroom, which I'd already moved out of home. So I'd had to go back. I was in a job I hated. I had all these debts. There was nothing. I didn't feel like there was anything more I could lose.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that's the right thing for most people to quit their job in that position. But what I had decided to do, what was the catalyst for me saying I'm going to leave this job and really make something of this, was I'd reached a point where so many people were reading my blog. Like I was getting thousands of people a week coming to my blog by this stage. I was, very bizarrely, people were actually wanting to pay me to help them.
Right.
It was strange because I still felt like a failure, really, to be honest. And I'd reached a point where there was that much request. Dean, teach me what you've done. How did you get this traffic? How did you start a blog? Just the process I just said with you.
Yeah.
People wanted me to teach that to them. So I decided in July of 2009, I would launch my very first paid product. So, being the young, naive, hopeful person I was at that stage that had began to see a few commissions, I thought, I'm going to make $100,000 in a week. I'm going to quit my day job and really do this. And so I quit my job and fully thought that would happen. And, not to sniff at it because it was a lot of money, but my launch, I made about $7,000 to myself after I'd paid out a couple of affiliate commissions. So it wasn't this big, huge thing that I thought it would be, but my outgoings were probably, with all my debts, about $2,000 a month.
Right.
So it gave me about 3 months to make some more.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I went about it. That was my approach. I didn't wait until I was making enough to quit my job. I threw myself into it, took a huge risk, and thankfully it paid off. And I just had this 3-month cycle every time. I need to make a bit more money.
Yeah.
And it gave me a bit of time every chance to do so.
Okay, well, that's good. Okay, so to be clear for the guys listening then, so you spent sort of 7 or 8 months blogging, building value, building a following, getting people to know, like, and trust you.
Correct.
And then you've launched a product.
Correct.
So what sort of price point was that product?
Well, actually, it was $197.
Right.
My first ever product. And again, looking back, a lesson I wish I'd learned from, I should have never gone backwards from that. You know, it's strange, as the years went on, my products went to $97 and all of a sudden $10. And it's like, hang on, how did this happen? Why do I have to make so many more sales now? But that's just kind of how it transpired. So yeah, that first product was, like I say, just under $200.
So what was it?
It was like I did like a 4-week or 6-week like actual coaching class.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the process that I just said I went through. So first step was how to start a blog. So that was sort of week 1. Second process was how I was driving traffic, which was being active in places like forums and things like that, social media. The next step was how to build an email list from that traffic. And then from building an email list, how to effectively do affiliate marketing and how to find products and how to send emails to your list. So it was actually something I called starting with marketing.
Right.
So it was like appealing to the people that had struggled for years just like me. And it actually did very well. I still know one person that quit their job because of that program. So
cool. Well, that's it's interesting. You know, I think, like you say, you know, what you did in terms of the blogging, etc., and then what you taught people to do the same sort of thing. It does work, and I think, you know, I've been telling people a very similar thing for goodness knows how many years, you know, because it does, and it really is. It's down to, I think, the main part of it is building a following, building, you know, as I said, that know, like, and trust factor with people, which unfortunately a lot of people just seem to think they can shortcut that part and just just sort of start making commissions with no sort of real trust, without warming people up, etc. Okay, so you did that product. Was that it? Was there any upsell from it, or was it 197 and that was it?
Just 197. To be honest, I didn't really know about upsells. As crazy as that is to say, I just didn't know how to do them.
It's interesting, a gift of hindsight, isn't it? What you know now, you'd be like, okay, well, either A, I would charge just like $3,500-4,000 for that course and make it a bit longer, or I'd have that short one and then upsell them into something else. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, so I literally had nothing else. That was it.
So where did you go from there then?
So from there, I actually started continuing to learn as much as I could, because like I say, I didn't know everything and still don't. So one of the things from there, in 2009, I actually attended an internet marketing seminar, and the guy was teaching largely about membership sites. So I was learning about membership sites towards sort of middle of 2009 and onwards, sort of July, August, that sort of time frame. And I actually met, in the coaching program that I joined, I got to know a guy, Adam, and because I was learning about membership sites, it was all a very bizarre turn of events. In fact, I've just remembered how this all occurred. In that product that I'd sold, I'd invited Adam, who knew how to drive traffic through other means, through like SEO, search engine optimization. He'd basically agreed to come and do a guest webinar with the people that had bought my product, not to sell anything, just content. And he came and did this webinar, and it was around about 2 hours long. And he taught, it was actually like this vast traffic generation, search engine optimization strategy, way over my head. I had no idea what he was on about. But at the same time, I'd been learning about membership sites and continuity and recurring income. And so what actually happened is, after that webinar, I said to him, that information that you know, have you done anything with it other than to teach this webinar? Do you have a product? Do you sell it? And he basically said, no, I intend to, but I've not done anything as yet. And I said, well, look, I'm learning about recurring income. There's this whole nother world of being able to earn money by selling something once. I said, how about we get together and we take what you know and we break it up into modules and we do a membership site. And he loved the idea. And we basically took his knowledge, created it into a 6-month membership site. So it had a fixed term, which in hindsight was another mistake, but there we go. It had a fixed term, so that we set this up so we would release one module each month with directions along the way. And each month they'd get a new one for 6 months. And we set this up, and it was at a point in time, which I'm sure many of the listeners would have heard of this, but it was at the time where sort of solo ads and ad swaps was just really beginning to surface. Like I think it was more ad swaps, in fact, rather than solo ads, in all honesty. So, people would say, well, you send an email to your list for me, and I'll send an email to my list for you, and we'll kind of do this trade-off, and everybody wins. And so I began to do that from the list that I'd built from my blog. Now, all I did, which again is insane how simple this was, we had a $1 trial to this membership site for 7 days, and then it was $97 a month.
Yeah.
So all I did, on my thank you page, so after everybody had joined my list, on my thank you page, it said, hey, check out this video. Stupidly simple. And that's what we did. Now, and then I just went out doing ad swaps with people.
Yeah.
So we'd got all this membership set up. Now, month one, well, we actually started this. There was about 10 days before the end of the month. This was November of 2009. Month one, we did about $2,000 in recurring income. Month two, we did $13,000 in recurring income.
Nice.
Month three, we decided we've got something big here. Let's do a big product launch. Mm-hmm. This is going to be the one, sort of thing. So we rallied around, we set up this product launch, and we went from $13,000 a month to $115,000 a month in 7 days.
Wow.
And this is where my life took a downward spiral in many respects.
Yeah.
I was this guy that had been near bankrupt for years, and all of a sudden I had so much money coming into my bank that I was stupid. I stopped doing any work.
Yeah.
I closed the computer, I packed my bags, and I just traveled around. Anytime I bumped into a friend that said, oh, we're going away next week. Oh, I'll get a ticket. I'll come. Forced myself on everybody. And I just traveled around all over the Caribbean and Las Vegas 3 times. That kind of contributes to why that was a bad year, I guess. And I just made a real mess of things, to be honest, in a business sense, because my lack of experience in having a business at that level led me to believe, well, we're making 6 figures a month. That's never going to go away.
Yeah.
Not even thinking about the fact this is a 6-month membership, that all those guys that just joined will be gone over the next few months.
Yeah.
And literally 8 months later, I'd lost everything. My business was gone. We went from 115,000 a month in February to 20,000 a month by December, which still sounds like a lot, I know, but we had large overheads by that stage. Yeah. And within a few months of the following year, 2011, it was gone. I had nothing. I was back in my mum's spare bedroom, sat at a desk on the edge of my bed, figuring out how to build a business again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
Wow. It's interesting. Do you know, it's funny. Obviously, you and I, I think it was, I think it would have been, I think in June 2011 that we first met.
Right.
That's when you did the event, wasn't it?
Yes. Yes.
I think it was then. And obviously we've been friends since, and we worked together for a short while down here in, down in Cardiff. But you're funny, you're relaying this story back. I'd never thought about how much our sort of journeys and stories and how much sort of interwent, because I was an affiliate for that.
Right. Okay. Right. Wow.
And you owe me. No, I'm only joking.
Yeah.
So I was an affiliate for that. And I actually then, later on, I was a student of Adam and Jit's.
Right.
Because they did so, and it was interesting when you said about the ad swapping, because Jit Uppel, who I think now does sort of does launch, I think does some management. He's more sort of behind the scenes kind of thing. I haven't spoken to Jit for a while, but Jit was like the ad swap king, wasn't he? I mean,
yes. Yeah.
I mean, I know with Lee McIntyre's program, which I think was on Infusionsoft, the same as yours.
Yes.
He made an absolute fortune as an affiliate for Lee. I think he was his top affiliate, and I guess he perhaps did some stuff for you guys as well. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But the ad swapping thing back then was amazing. It was the income, and that what you said you did was exactly what I did.
Right. Yeah.
I'd sort of I had a list, and I was I'm just ad swapping, and there was a banner there, and it was going through to you and Adam's product. So that's interesting, and it's funny about you saying about then how it all sort of imploded, because when we worked together, which I guess actually that was the end of 2011. So you must have just sort of, you probably come off the back of that issue, and then you did the event probably mid 2011.
Yes, that's it. So how it all transpired, that all fell apart, like I say, by sort of the start of 2011, it was, just crickets. It was just gone. Yeah. So, like I say, I had to kind of figure out, well, how am I going to build my business back up? And the scary thing was, obviously, I'd become, accustomed to a certain type of lifestyle. I could afford to go out and run my car and pay my bills and things like that, without even going lavish. I could, I was running my own business. Things were good. Yeah. But now I had nothing, and I didn't have a job. There was no dependable income. So obviously I had to figure out how to do it, and how to do it pretty quickly. And that actually thrust me into the product launch business. Mm-hmm. It was like, well, I'd just seen, the previous year we did that 7-day product launch. Look how my life changed. Well, if I could do product launches regularly, then that would get me back quickly. That was the mentality I sort of had, which led me to discover WSOs on the Warrior Forum. Mm-hmm. And that, again, it literally helped my business grow very quickly. I've started doing these, low-priced product launches on the Warrior Forum, sort of $10, $20 products. Started building a list of customers by doing that, which allowed me to make, my primary income source then wasn't the product launch, was actually affiliate marketing to my list of customers thereafter the product launch. So, if I did a launch and got 500 or 1,000 buyers, no huge launch by today's standards. But I was able to make sort of at least $3 per month at that stage for each customer that I had on my list. So,
okay, as ever, we're pulling down the curtain on that interview. I've let that run a little bit long. I've let that go to the 25-minute mark. Normally just go over the 20, but I want to give a little bit extra for you. And that's nothing compared to what goes on in the rest of the interview. What Dean shares, as you heard, he came from. Talk about being so far behind the curve, financially, it's just absolutely crazy. $60,000 in debt, didn't tell his family. I know Dean personally, so I know the issues and the problems, the repercussions that, the actions that he had, what those repercussions were. So, I know for him to have got in the position where he is now was, a hell of a task, hell of a job. So, just absolutely amazing. So, obviously, as I said right at the top of the show, is if you're not inside of the group yet, if you're not watching this as the full extended video, you just listen to it as the podcast, you need to go to the solopreneurshow.com/Dean Holland, and you need to get inside the group and listen to the rest of that interview. Also, as well, what I'll do is I'm going to put a link underneath the video at the show page, and you can find out a little bit more about Dean, a little bit more about iPro as well. So that's going to be there for you, as well as something a little bit over and above. Okay, so it's now time to crack on with this week's Ask Anthony.
And now it's time for my favourite part of the show. It's Ask Anthony.
Okay, it's Ask Anthony. Now, I've had quite a few questions in, but I thought I'm just going to do one this week. And the reason I'm doing one is because, A, that was a heck of a long interview. If you're listening to the full version of this, if you're listening to the edited version, you know what to do. You know where to go. Solopreneurshow.com/Dean Holland. Get yourself in the group and you can hear the whole shooting match. So I wanted to keep this down to one question, but there was one question that really, really jumped out at me, particularly having just done the interview that I've just done, talking about building know, like, and trust, etc. So I have a question. It comes from Margaret. Margaret says, I'm part of an MLM program, and I'm using their emails. I'm using their done-for-you emails, sorry. But they keep hitting the spam box. So basically what she's saying is, whenever she sends an email, basically what's happening is these emails are going into spam. So, do I have any suggestions? So yes, I do. It's create unique content. Okay, so basically, actually, where are we now? In 2 weeks' time, there is going to be a Solopreneur show special, and I'm going to be the guest, which is quite spooky. I'll still present and sort of the start of the show, but actually, on the couch there behind me, next week's guest, Mr. Chris Payne. I interview Chris back there, and then Chris interviews me. So next week's show is going to be me interviewing Chris. Week after is going to be Chris interviewing me. So that's pretty cool. And I'm going to talk about this in that interview and the need to be creating unique content. So you certainly, Margaret, make sure that you listen to that show without a shadow of a doubt. You're going to get sort of a real full answer. But I'll give you sort of a potted one here that can help you now. Okay, so basically what happens is if you're in one of these done for you programs, you're using the sort of the done for you emails, they're absolutely great. There's no getting around that. Because they're written by quality copywriters. They're designed to help you, as is the whole thing. Okay, and nothing wrong with that. Use them, put them in your autoresponder, etc. That kind of thing. But where the I don't want to say issue, but where you need to tweak them, you need to tinker with them, because basically what's happening is if you're using these emails and you've got several thousand people all using the exact same emails, what happens is when they go into Gmail, into AOL, into Yahoo, etc., they flag up that these emails are all coming, all these identical emails are all coming from all these different locations. So it looks a bit strange, particularly if you're in an MLM program that they recommend one autoresponder, and that's where all the sort of the leads, etc., and everything are kept, and everybody is in that one autoresponder. Then they're not only getting the same content all coming from different from addresses, but they're all then coming from the same autoresponder. So that is just like this massive red flag to Gmail and Yahoo and AOL, etc. So what you need to be doing is you need to be changing the emails. You need to be creating something unique. So back in the day when we used to have sort of article spinning, that kind of thing, that you couldn't put the same article on a whole series of article sites. You had to spin it, you had to change it, which did sometimes bring out some quite amusing results. But you want to sit down, yes, use that email as your basis, that's absolutely fine, but make sure you change a good percentage of it. I would say, change at least 60, 70% or add 60, 70% to it, make it more personal, put your own personal story to it. So that's going to be a big reason why you're hitting the spam. Okay, so that would be the first thing to test, to try. I would also as well, you want to be going and have a look, Google and check, blacklists, domain blacklists, and you'll be able to find a site where you can put your own domain in just to check it's not been blacklisted as well for some reason. That's another reason that it can happen. And just be careful of the words that you're using inside of the email. Spam words. Believe it or not, the words "click here" are now actually classed as spam. They're flagged up by the likes of Gmail and Yahoo because they're used by internet marketers, and people usually sort of click here to find out how to make $100,000 in 3 minutes flat, and that kind of rubbish. So just be aware of what it is that you're sending. Okay, what I'll do actually off the top of my head, I can't remember the domain name, but there is a site that I use that actually checks, and you can actually send it your email, and it'll tell you then whether it's spammy, and it'll make sort of changes. You can make changes and then resubmit it, and it'll give you like a spam score, that kind of thing. So that's what you want to be doing. When you check an email. So here's just sort of one quick tip for you as well, Margaret. What I would suggest is go to Gmail, create a new Gmail account, create a new Yahoo account, create an AOL account, and don't use them for anything at all. Nothing whatsoever other than subscribing to your own list. Okay, so subscribe to your own lists, And even if you want to create, a unique list that only has these email addresses on it, okay? And then when you've written an email and you want to test it, before you send it, just send it out properly, as a proper broadcast, but just to these 3 email addresses. This does make extra work, but hey, it's not like going down a mine. And the other thing is as well, by doing this and making sure and testing, sending these emails, you're making sure that what you're sending is decent stuff and it's hitting the inboxes. Because if it hits your inbox in those 3 places, if it hits yours, it's going to hit your prospects as well. All right. So it's just a little bit of extra work, it's a little bit of extra testing. But if it means you're going to get into people's inboxes and not hit the spam or hit the promotions folder, potentially over the course of a year, that could make a big difference to your bottom line. All right. So that's just some quick hints, tips, and sort of strategies to give a try to get yourself out of that spam folder and into people's inboxes. All right. So I hope you've found that useful, Margaret. And as I say, 2 weeks' time. Yes, definitely going to be 2 weeks' time. Keep an eye out. So that would be podcast number 10. I'm just getting so good at this maths; it's unbelievable. I'll be counting now over and above my 2 hands soon. So, podcast 10. Keep an eye out for that because I'm going to be interviewing. I'm going to be talking more about creating unique content. If you are a multi-level marketer, if you're in done for you program, etc. So make sure you keep your eye out for that one. It'll give you sort of further explanation. All right. So that is the end of today's show. As you know, solopreneurshow.com/Dean Holland. If you want to see the links to to that spam checker, or if you listen to the podcast and you want to find out how to get into the group, then go and do that. Go and check out that page. And once again, guys, I really hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, or wherever you're watching it, whether you're watching the edited or whether you're watching the full, please leave a review, leave a comment, like it, share it. Whatever it is, the buttons that are around it, please, take a few minutes just to help, reward me for my activity, and it'll come back to visit you tenfold. I'm sure you do a good thing, and it'll come back and visit you to your business as well. So, and if you're inside the group, ask Anthony, put your questions in there, and if you want to PM them, I've been getting a lot of PMs, people sort of PMing because they don't want to put them in the group. But, what I'm going to do I think I'm probably actually going to put a link up where people can actually fill in an application for, or, just fill in and ask their question on a form. So it'll make life a lot easier because all of a sudden me doing this show, it's all kicked off, getting private messages left, right and center. So if I'm not responding as quickly perhaps as I would do usually, my sincere apologies. So actually, I think probably me putting that in the group would be the best bet, and you guys can sort of can message me through that, or alternatively support at thesolopreneurshow.com. We can answer your questions there as well, because PMs do sort of make it a little bit difficult, to be perfectly honest with you, to keep track of. All right. So that said, we will see you next week. Next week's episode we have with Mr. Chris Payne here on my sofa. And that's a great interview as well. He's a really amazing guy. Do a little bit of searching of Christopher John Payne, and you will find a very, very knowledgeable and very interesting gentleman. And I'm really looking forward to talking to him. Okay, so that said, I will see you next week and see you in the group. And take care. Speak soon. Bye now.
To get your hands on more great business training and advice, plus the chance to join our free Facebook group where you will see extended guest interviews, the opportunity of free one-to-one coaching, and behind-the-scenes access to Anthony, go to www.thesolopreneurshow.com and join us today.